these guys do, which is go down to AAA and break camp there and then get a shot up within the first month of the season or something and hope to latch on.
Right, yeah, and Masterson, he'll be able to step in and start for him, and I'm sure they'll give him a fair shot over there. But I don't think he would have been in the starting rotation for the Cleveland Indians, at least not right out of the gate. I just think they're going to probably leave House in there and try to have one lefty in that rotation and go with their 4 youngsters and see how far that takes them. And then they added, a Sean Markham and some. I'm sure there will be some more additions to that staff as they go forward. But
Markham was, he wasn't ready last year, but he was that guy. So maybe they're thinking that this year, he'll be ready to perhaps step in there, because I know he was still dealing with his deal there to come back. And the other thing I wanted to ask you while we're talking about this, kind of since we've got the Indians brought up here, is we've all speculated, Mike Brandenberry and I and Jeff Gorman, that with Moss coming in, you got to think that there's going to be some complimentary deals here to come with that, some trades. And you got to think David Murphy's one of them. There's been all kinds of rumors going around. Some different trade rumors have been put out there or whatever. But what are your thoughts on that? I've got to think that as well. I mean, you've got a lot of people. There's this team, for as much as some people say, I like what the Indians have done, I don't think we said this last week, don't think you have a team yet that you break spring with and say this is the team. You've still got some moves to make.
Yeah, and I think certainly there's too many bodies in that right field, first base, DH, category, and you throw out the expendables, the immediately expendables. I think would be Rayburn and Murphy. Certainly, you might throw Nick Swisher on that expendables list too if you could get somebody to buy into that salary. But I somehow. I will bow down and say we are not worthy to Chris Antonetti if he's able to unload Nick Swisher. That will be magic pixie dust that he uses to get that done. I think the other guys, I think you can just almost write off as guys that are going to either be traded or just DFA'd or something. I can't see going through another season of Ryan Rayburn and wondering what we're going to get out of that. And Murphy didn't give you, I don't think, necessarily the defense that you wanted. And he put up some decent journeyman numbers offensively, but nobody's going to make you forget. I just assume give James Ramsey a shot out there in right field as go back to the Rayburn Murphy platoon.
Yeah, I'm interested in Ramsey. Speaking of Murphy, the one trade that I saw speculated on was perhaps for a pitcher, bringing in John Neese from the Mets, and he's from. Here's another one. We were talking about Billingsley last week or 2 weeks ago, but another one from Defiance. Defiance turns up some baseball players, man, but Neese is a guy who perhaps could fit that. Willing to slide in and try to be a veteran arm, getting a spot in that rotation. He's like a career 500 pitcher over there in the National League. And he's 52 and 51 with an ERA slightly under 4. So, you add a half a run to that, with the jump over to the American League or whatever. Still moderately decent numbers. He's still relatively young and I think he's under team control until, I believe, 2018 with his contract options and stuff. So it sounds definitely like the type of trade that may intrigue the Indians. I saw Hoynesy speculating about that. Have you heard anything, or are you interested in a deal like that, perhaps?
Yeah, and the other thing that we've heard a little bit of talk about is trying to acquire a closer, some experience with some experience finishing games. And the name Ashford was floated out there as well as some other people. That kind of gave me a little shudder when I read it. But that it would appear to make sense. I mean, they did so much, put so much of a burden on their 7, 8, 9 guys last year. Number of appearances from Cody Allen to Shaw and everybody else. I mean, they just they beat them up, and you never know if that's going to have a long-term effect on them or affect them badly in 2015. So you just have to bolster. You can never have enough back end of the bullpen arms, and so if they go out and get some veteran there, that would be a move that would seem prudent and make some sense.
Yeah, and that makes a whole lot of sense there too. And somebody asked about the salary here with Neese. I mean, for the next 2 years, it's $7 million and $9 million. relatively decent for a starting pitcher of his ilk. And then the 2 option years they're big money. They're $10 and $11 million, but they've got a $500,000 buyout for each one. So if the Indians wanted to cut bait after 2016, $1 million would get them out of that final $21 million of that salary. So that's exactly the kind of thing that the Indians would be interested in. I found this interesting too on Baseball Reference. They do comps and comparisons from guys at their age, and a lot of the guys that Neese kind of compares to for what he's done at his age are, I'm with it. A Matt Garza, a Steve Traxel, those type of guys. That seems about that level for that kind of guys. It's interesting, and we'll see. Again, but I think that he's one Murphy that's a high at the top of list of candidates there, and. But there's a lot of guys, man. There's a lot of different things the Indians could do here, depending on which way they wanted to go. Because each one will more than likely affect another one. Do we make this move and then grab this guy to go with it, or do we make this move and then grab this guy? So it'll be interesting. But they can't stand pat, and I think they know that. Man, speaking of not standing pat, nobody did. Was this not one of the busiest winter meetings in quite some time? There were players flying left and right over a couple of days.
Yeah, you're right. And I saw a guy on MLB the other night making the point that it's not anymore an issue of, clear-cut buyers and sellers. The new playoff format makes it such that there's all of a sudden there's all kinds of more buyers, and it's buyers trading with buyers. It's guys saying, 2 winning teams, two good franchises trying to, get a win-win type situation by making a deal with another winning franchise, because nobody anymore can consider themselves, definitely a seller or a quote unquote a loser, because it's so competitive now. And we talked about in the last 2 years, there's been no team that's won 100 games, where over the previous seasons, and I saw it broken down into like 5-year segments of how many teams there were in this span of years that won 100 games. Well, it's 3 or 4 teams and 2 teams, and the last 2 seasons, maybe even 3 seasons, there's been no team that's won 100 games. Talking about just increased parity. More teams are in it. More teams are staying in it longer. More teams feel like they might be only a player or 2 away from getting over the hump. And so it's a little bit different environment at the winter meetings where, you don't necessarily have to seek out the bad franchises, try to, get their star players and feed them prospects. It's just a little bit of a different mentality going into it, because everybody kind of feels like they're in it.
Yeah, and that's one of the. You're right. It's a different marketplace there, and seeing the buyers, like you said, say, "Hey, man, I got this really expensive piece, but I don't really need it. But I like that really expensive piece that you got there, and maybe you try mine, and I'll try yours." And the Red Sox, man, we even towards the end of the season, we've all made comments like they won't sit put. We know that. They're gonna go to work, and they're definitely, man, talk about it. They're going to work, man. The Red Sox clearly one of the most busy and active teams out there. Oakland too. They're in that cycle where now they're flipping the guys that they got 3, 4, 5 years ago. They're now flipping those guys around for more young guys and prospects.
Yeah, that's right. They spinning off Donaldson and Moss, and yep. Then you've got the Red Sox mentality moved over to the Cubs with Theo Epstein, and he's paying a record signing. I read this morning, $30 million was Lester's signing bonus, all-time record for a free agent signing bonus is $30 million up front to put your name on the contract. Pretty incredible.
Good money if you can get it, my friend.
Yeah, nice work if you can get it, as the saying goes. Hey, wanted to make sure I got one other thing in. I don't know if you heard this morning that Tom Herman looks like he's leaving the Buckeyes. He's going to take the head coaching job at Houston. It appears. Just read that report this morning from Bruce Feldman, and not a done deal yet, but it looks like that's been speculated for a while. That job was open, and he made so much sense for it, having so many Texas connections, and he's recruited Texas for years, and they're looking for somebody that would be one of those high-powered offense guys. Houston prides themselves on being that kind of a team, all the way back to David Klingler.
David Klingler.
So Herman gives them that wide open offensive look that they like down there, and seems like a good match for him. Best of luck to him. Apparently, he's going to stick with Urban and coach the team through the playoffs as far as that goes.
David Klingler, man, there's a name from the blast from the past. He was setting all kinds of records.
Talk about some first round quarterback busts.
Yeah, he went to Cincinnati, right? He went to the Bengals. Yeah, David Klingler set all those records with Houston, man, and nothing, man. There you go.
Didn't work out so great, and he was more than 5'11".
Even the guys that score record-setting numbers of touchdowns in college sometimes get to the pros and realize that the best days of their life have already happened. I'm just saying, it does happen. And somebody posted on our Facebook page just a few moments ago while you and I were talking, the commercial with Boz and those guys where they want to go back to college and they're like, take me with you. And the guy's like, I'm going back to college. Somebody just did one of those with a headshot of Manziel, you're going back to college? Take me with you, But anyways, real quick, I wanted to mention, because I don't know if you heard us talk about it on the show, JK broke it the other day, but pretty cool stuff. We're all big Wild Thing, Rick Vaughn, Major League aficionados, always quoting it. JK got to put together, we were talking over the weekend, he said it was like a childhood dream, it's like, that thing that you really love, and then you get to write the book on it, and he's got the definitive book on Major League coming out, the just a bit inside story behind the Major League movie, and he got to sit down with everybody and go through it all, and pretty cool. It's coming out in a couple months, but I was stoked. I texted him over the weekend. I said, that's cool. That's like, we all get to do cool stuff in the broadcasting and journalism that we do, but every once in a while, it's something that you really, really love, and then you get to do something cool, like learn all about it, and that's one of those ones where you have as much fun putting it together as the people reading it, but that's pretty cool, man. I'm stoked, looking forward to that. When you brought up baseball, I had to end it with that. I don't know if you've heard about that, but JK's got.
I had not. That's very cool. Very exciting, and I love JK, and of course JK is the reason I'm on here on the show with you. And I sometimes forget to thank him for that, but thanks, JK. I appreciate it. It's been a good couple of years. Yeah, that's a cool project, and everybody loves the movie. I'm not the huge fan of it that you are, only because it's a phony Indians championship, not the real thing.
Yeah,
so, I know. But that's all right. I appreciate that Cleveland fans are into it, and it was great the first time I watched it. I haven't been able to get the enjoyment out of watching it over and over and over again that some people do, but that's just me.
See, with me, it's one of the best, if you're into sports, movies, comedies. It's one of the best of them, and the icing on the cake is that it's the Indians to me. Because to me, that movie about anybody, it could be the Invisible Team, it could be some phony team, it's still a hilarious movie. I just dig, Major League. I thought it was a well-done movie, and it was a good group. That original cast, those were all guys that, branched off into all kinds of different stuff, and it was an eclectic group that they put together. But, the second one, the third one, different stuff. But the fact that it was the Indians just puts it over the top for me. But I tell people all the time, if that was about the, Sheboygan Major League is one of the best, baseball/sports movies.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. And there's some classic lines in there, and we hear we homage to one of them almost every baseball game with just a bit outside. So,
Absolutely, man. And I mean, of course, as a broadcaster, I dig the broadcasters, and I'm just saying, I've done a game or two where you go, man, nobody's listening anyway. What does it matter? But anyways, it's cool stuff, and I'm looking.
Well, that's cool.
If
it's anything like JK's other projects, I'm sure it'll be good.
Oh, goodness, yeah. I told him. That'd be like me. Everybody knows I grew up a big, wrestling fan. That'd be like Hulk Hogan going, hey, brother, sit down and tell my story with me. All right, Hulk, where do you want to start, man? So pretty cool. Good stuff. Dan, we'll come back on Wednesday. We'll talk. You brought up the bowl. We got the schedule here. Well, let's look at some of those. We'll talk about some of those games. We don't got to preview them, but some good ones coming up on the slate. We'll talk about the latest whatever is going on with the Browns and whatever, man. We'll just kind of do a whatever Wednesday kind of thing, man.
That sounds good. We'll wing it, and I got to put my bowl pool together here by tomorrow morning, so I'm going to have to look at every single game and pick a winner. So that'll be fresh on my mind, and we can talk about some of the good ones on Wednesday.
Absolutely. Sounds good. Dan, have a good one, and we'll catch up in a couple days, my friend.
Sounds good, Derek. See you then.